Welcome to the Rosary Team Podcast. Today we are embarking on a deep dive into what is, I think it's fair to say, the single most intensely studied religious artifact in the world.
Oh, absolutely. The Shroud of Turin.
The Shroud of Turin. It's this remarkable object that sits right at the intersection of history, rigorous forensic science, and, of course, profound spiritual faith.
It really does. And the sources you provided for this, recent scientific papers, books, expert commentary, they all just aggressively challenge that common idea that science and faith have to be in opposition.
That's the mission today, really. To unpack the evidence that suggests the shroud isn't just authentic, but that it might offer a physical explanation, or at least a physical record, of the resurrection itself.
It's such a powerful conversation because, for centuries, the whole debate has been, pretty simple.
Is it the burial cloth of Jesus, or is it a very, very clever medieval forgery?
Exactly. And for a long time, the science seemed to point one way.
To forgery. Everyone remembers 1988. The carbon-14 dating results came out, and they placed the cloth squarely in the Middle Ages, somewhere between 1260 and 1390. And for most people, that was it. Case closed. It's a hoax.
Far from it. That C14 date has been, in the view of many, many researchers now, it's been completely and definitively buried.
Buried. I like that.
Yeah. Books like The Shroud Rises, as the carbon date is buried, just meticulously document all of this counter-evidence.
I remember when those results came out, though. It felt so final at the time. What exactly changed? How did the scientific view of that test flip so dramatically?
It really all came down to the integrity of the sample itself.
The actual piece of cloth they cut off to test.
The very piece. The key finding came from a chemist named Ray Rogers in a 2005 peer-reviewed study. He found that the specific sample they took for that test was highly contaminated.
Contaminated with what?
Well, this is the most critical part. It was taken from an area of the shroud that had been repaired in the Middle Ages.
Repaired?
It had been interwoven with newer cotton threads to patch it up.
Wait, so why does a medieval repair thread matter so much for dating the original cloth? It seems like a small detail.
Oh, it's everything. Because the C14 process dates when the material was last alive, right?
Right, when the plant was harvested.
So by including carbon from those newer repair threads, you completely skew the result. You're averaging the date of ancient linen with medieval cotton. It makes the whole sample appear much, much younger.
It's like testing a patch on a tire and then claiming the whole car was built when the patch was put on.
That's a perfect analogy. It makes the result, the scientific term is fatally flawed.
And that's not even getting into the whole controversy around the British Museum, apparently withholding data after the test, which just fueled a lot of suspicion.
It certainly did. But researchers weren't just debunking the old date. They were also looking for affirmative proof of an older date.
Using different methods.
Exactly. A scientist named Liberato De Caro used something called wide-angle X-ray scattering.
Okay, what's that do?
It basically measures the natural degradation of the cloth's cellulose structure over time. And his results point to an antiquity of about 2,000 years.
Which puts it right back in the 1st century.
Right where it should be.
But the skepticism, it never really stops, does it? Just last year, there was another challenge, this bas-relief hypothesis from Cicero Morass.
Right, the idea that the image was made from a sculpture.
Yeah, he used 3D digital simulations. What was his argument exactly?
Well, Morass suggested that if you pressed a bas-relief sculpture, so a shallow sculpture against the cloth, it would produce less distortion than a full human body would when you look at it straight on.
It's an interesting idea digitally. But how does a computer simulation stand up against the actual physical chemistry of the cloth? The experts, like the International Center for Shroud Studies, seem to dismiss it pretty quickly.
They did. First, they pointed out that this whole idea of orthogonal projection isn't new. But the second point is the one that really matters. Digital simulations can't override material science. You just can't. Moraes' entire argument depends on the assumption that the image is a simple contact print.
Something pressed against the cloth.
Exactly. And all the physical evidence already rules that out completely. You cannot make this image by just pressing something painted or scorched against a piece of linen.
Okay, let's unpack that. Let's get into that physical evidence, because this is where the shroud really earns its reputation as the world's greatest mystery.
Yeah.
Why is this image so impossible to forge?
It all boils down to the unique mechanism of how the image was formed. The Shroud of Turin research project, STURP, investigated this for years.
And what did they find?
They found the image is not a stain, it's not paint or ink or a pigment, it's a chemical change in the linen itself. It's a superficial oxidation and dehydration of the cellulose fibers.
And when you say superficial, how superficial are we talking?
This is the part that is just mind-boggling. The image penetrates only the top 1 or 2 microfibers of a linen thread.
Okay, put that in perspective for me.
A single linen thread is made up of about 200 of these microfibers. So the image, the coloration, exists on only the absolute surface layer, about 1% of a single thread's thickness.
So a layer thinner than a human hair applied perfectly across this huge image of a human body. That sounds impossible with a brush.
It is impossible. Stirp confirmed it. There is zero trace of paint, ink, dye, pigment, anything under that micro-thin layer. It eliminates every known artistic method, medieval or otherwise.
And beyond just how thin it is, there's the uniform density.
Correct. The density of the image is the same everywhere you look, front or back. To achieve that kind of consistency only on the outermost fibers would require some kind of advanced technology that could just precisely target and alter that surface layer.
And then you add the medical forensics on top of the image chemistry.
Yes. This is where it gets even more extraordinary. The evidence suggests the man of the shroud didn't just die from crucifixion, but in a very specific, verifiable state.
Like what?
Forensic analysis shows the body was in a state of both rigor mortis and something called cadaveric spasm simultaneously.
Cadaveric spasm. What is that?
It's extremely rare. It's when your muscles lock up instantly at the moment of a violent traumatic death. It overrides the normal, slower onset of rigor mortis.
And why is that combination so important?
Well, work by people like Theodora Pappas shows that the positioning of the arms, locked in that strained position, it strongly indicates that the spasm, the death, and the start of rigor mortis all happened while the man was still nailed upright on the cross.
So it wasn't a medieval artist posing a body in a studio?
Absolutely not. This was a snapshot of the moment of death. And then there's the blood evidence.
Mm-hmm.
The blood stains are perfect for crucifixion wounds, but analysis showed really high levels of creatinine in the blood. That's a biomarker for severe physical trauma, consistent with the kind of extreme torture the Gospels describe.
So let's pull this together. We have an image that defies forgery on a cloth from the 1st century showing a man who died under the exact conditions of the crucifixion narrative.
Precisely. And that's why researchers like Giulio Franti conclude that the phenomenon that made this image is still completely unexplained. It's never been reproduced in a lab.
Which brings us to our core theme today, this powerful compatibility between science and faith. When science hits a wall, when it says, this is impossible, it opens the door to another possibility, doesn't it?
It really does. And this idea is so beautifully embodied by people like the late Jesuit astrophysicist Manuel Carrera.
What a background he had. A Jesuit priest, a theologian, a philosopher, and an astrophysicist with a PhD in physics who was a member of the Vatican Observatory.
I mean, he was uniquely positioned to bridge those two worlds. His whole argument was that science and faith are two partial ways of knowing reality. They have to complement each other.
So not enemies, but two sides of the same coin.
Yes. He saw the universe as intelligible, as purposeful. He even argued that denying the universe had a beginning is actually anti-scientific. For him, science explores the physical world, but it shouldn't try to disprove theology.
So if we look at the shroud through that lens, it stops being just a relic, and it becomes, potential physical evidence of the ultimate miracle.
The resurrection. That's exactly how authors like Larry Stalley in Divine Testimony or Mike King in The Divine Selfie frame it. It's physical proof.
If the image was formed by, say, a massive burst of energy as the body dematerialized, that would be an event outside of known physics, but it would leave behind physical evidence.
Undeniable physical evidence. And the science is complex, but the historical and artistic impact is just as compelling.
You're talking about the vignal markings.
Exactly. A researcher, Otangelo Grasser, looked at 15 distinctive facial features on the shroud, like a topless square between the brows, specific wrinkles, and compared them to early Byzantine icons of Christ, like the Pantocrator images.
And the statistical odds of that being a coincidence
Like
are
trinomical. He calculated them at 1 in 3.05 times 10 to the 19th power.
Wow.
It's a statistical impossibility. It strongly suggests the shroud was the single prototype for all of these very early depictions of Christ's face.
Which traces its influence much further back than the Middle Ages. And then you have the Sudarium of Oviedo.
Right, the face cloth, which has a verified history going back to the 6th century.
And it matches.
It matches perfectly. The blood stain patterns, even the blood type, they're identical to what's on the shroud. It suggests both cloths covered the exact same crucified body.
Now, the shroud itself is, of course, carefully protected in Turin. It isn't always available for public viewing, but that image, that face, it continues to inspire so much reverence and art all over the world.
It's true. It's such a powerful focal point for prayer and reflection.
And for anyone listening who wants to bring that profound image into their own home or office, we do want to highlight the beautiful products available from the Rosary Team.
It's a wonderful way to commemorate what really is the world's greatest mystery. The Rosary Team has a whole range of high-quality Shroud of Turin art for your wall.
Yeah, you can find these stunning traditional canvas prints, the Shroud of Turin canvas, starting at just $56.93. Or, if you want a more finished look, there's a Shroud of Turin framed poster, and that starts at only $33.35.
And for something really unique and striking, they have the Shroud of Turin icon brushed aluminum plaque. It gives the image this amazing metallic finish because white isn't printed on the aluminum. That starts at $103.90. And there's also the Shroud of Turin icon wood plaque prints.
These are just exceptional ways to keep that mystery and that powerful testimony present in your daily life. To see all of these items, just visit rosaryteam.com. That's ROSARYTEAM.com.
So getting back to the science, if we're ruling out human action, what do researchers actually propose as the mechanism?
This is where we get to the hypothesis from Giulio Fanti and Robert Siefker in their book, The Holy Fire and the Divine Photography. This is where science hits that wall and sort of points toward a spiritual solution.
And what do they propose?
They hypothesize that the body image was produced by an energy source that was generated at the very instant of the resurrection. An incredibly rapid, high-energy burst.
A divine photograph.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
A divine photograph taken in that moment. That would explain the incredible superficiality of the image, a flash of energy, just searing the top microfibers.
And it would also explain why the cloth isn't disturbed.
Exactly. Fantomy even notes in his papers that the body exiting the shroud without leaving any marks of movement is a phenomenon that is, and this is his phrase, currently outside of science.
That's such an honest admission of where the limits are.
It is, and it's the ultimate convergence, isn't it? The science gives us the parameters of a physical event that we cannot replicate, but that aligns perfectly with the central claim of the Christian faith.
All the data just keeps pointing back to the first century and to the biblical account of the Passion and the Resurrection.
So, to synthesize all this for you, the Shroud of Turin remains the world's greatest mystery because the evidence, the material science, the forensics, the history, it just compels both the mind and the heart.
The science essentially forces you to accept that this man was crucified, he died under these very specific conditions, and the image was formed by some kind of rapid, high-energy event. That's the beauty of it. It uses rigorous science to point toward a spiritual truth.
And what I find so fascinating is that this isn't a new debate. The recent discovery of Nicole Oresme's overlooked writings from the 14th century reminds us that skepticism about the shroud isn't a modern thing. It was part of its DNA from the very beginning.
And yet here we are, 6 centuries later, with all this incredible data, and the cloth continues to provoke such deep belief. It's a profound challenge to both cynics and believers.
The shroud asks all of us to consider the possibility of a physical miracle that left behind its own impossible physical signature. We really encourage you to continue your own investigation into this.
And you can explore all the devotional art we talked about today, the canvases and plaques, over at the Rosary Team website.
Visit rosaryteam.com today. Thank you for listening to the Rosary Team Podcast.